The massive alien vessels appeared suddenly, breaking through the cloud cover over major cities worldwide. Their hulls gleamed with an iridescent blue-black sheen that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. In Seoul, pedestrians stopped, in their tracks, pointing skyward as shadows fell across the urban landscape. Traffic halted. Phones came out to capture the moment humanity realized they were not alone. Colonel Park stood on the rooftop of the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the largest ship position itself above the city. Wind whipped at his uniform as he raised binoculars to his eyes, studying the strange geometric patterns etched into the vessel's surface. "Sir, we're detecting energy buildups across all vessels," reported Captain Kim, her voice steady despite the tension evident in her posture. She handed him a tablet displaying real-time readings from sensors worldwide. "Similar reports coming in from Tokyo, New York, London, and Moscow," Park nodded grimly. "And our orbital defenses. The moon base reports our satellites have gone dark." The Mars colony transmitted an emergency signal before communications were cut. Before Park could respond, the air around them changed. A low hum built to a painful pitch, and then a column of light shot down from the alien mothership, striking the plaza in front of the National Assembly building. When the light faded, a tall figure stood there, flanked by 4 smaller creatures. The Nava had arrived. Global communications networks broadcast the same scene from different cities, identical beings appearing simultaneously across Earth. The aliens stood nearly 3 meters tall, their bodies covered in what appeared to be living armor that shifted colors like oil on water. Their faces featured 6 eyes arranged in a circular pattern around a central speaking apparatus. "We are the Nova," the being announced, its voice somehow transmitting directly to every electronic device on Earth. "We claim this system as part of our domain. Your species will kneel before us as all others have." Within hours, global leaders convened an emergency virtual summit. Colonel Park and Captain Kim represented the UEDF in the war room, surrounded by holographic projections of military and political figures from around the world. "They've established orbital superiority without firing a shot," General Ju reported, his weathered face grim in the blue light of the holograms. "Our most advanced weapon systems can't even get a targeting lock on their vessels." "What exactly do they want?" asked President Lee, her normally confident demeanor showing cracks of concern. As if in answer, all screens switched to display the Navarre ambassador, now standing in what appeared to be the United Nations General Assembly Hall. Behind the alien, several smaller creatures moved about, different species with distinct physiologies, all wearing similar collar-like devices. "Human leaders," the Nava began, its 6 eyes blinking in unsettling patterns. "Your civilization has been evaluated and found worthy of preservation, provided you accept your proper place in our empire. You have achieved sufficient technological advancement to be useful, yet lack the capabilities to resist integration." The ambassador gestured to the various aliens behind it. "These species serve the Nava Empire with loyalty and purpose. Each has a function, each knows its value. There is no conflict, no waste, no chaos." Park felt his hands clench into fists as the alien continued. "You have 1 lunar cycle, what you call a month, to prepare your surrender ceremonies. Resistance is not advised. Compliance will be rewarded with technological advancement and protection. Defiance will result in disciplinary measures." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the room in stunned silence. "They expect us to just give up?" Captain Kim said, breaking the quiet. In the days that followed, the Nava ships remained in orbit, motionless and silent. Smaller scout vessels occasionally descended to hover above major research centers and military installations, scanning but not engaging. Colonel Park established a secure underground facility where Earth's brightest minds gathered to analyze what little data they had on the invaders. Captain Kim led a team intercepting and decoding Nava communications. "Sir, I think we found something," Kim announced on the 5th day, entering Park's makeshift office with a tablet. She placed it before him, showing a complex pattern of energy signatures. Their ships communicate using quantum entanglement, but there are brief moments when they use conventional transmissions to coordinate with their ground forces. "Can we listen in?" Park asked, studying the patterns. "Better than that. We've captured fragments of their biological database. Kim's eyes lit up with excitement. The Navar catalogue all species they encounter, and they've severely underestimated humans. She pulled up another screen showing physiological comparisons between humans and other conquered species. They classify threats based on immediate strength, natural weapons, and technological advancement. But they have no concept of endurance hunting or human adaptability. To them, we're just clever primates without claws or fangs. Park leaned back, a glimmer of hope forming. So they don't understand what they're dealing with. Exactly, sir. And there's more. Those other species we saw, they're not willing servants. They're slaves. The collars suppress independent thought and enforce obedience. 2 weeks into the grace period, a Nava scout ship crashed in the Siberian wilderness. UEDF Special Forces recovered the wreckage before the aliens could, bringing critical technology and 1 injured Navar to the underground facility. Dr. Lee, the lead xenobiologist, reported her findings to Park and Kim. Their biology is fascinating. Extremely specialized for their role as conquerors, enhanced strength, redundant organs, but poor stamina. They evolved on a high-gravity world with short day-night cycles. They're sprinters, not marathoners. Can we use that? Park asked. Absolutely. And the technology from their ship is revealing. Advanced, yes, but not magical. We can understand it and potentially counter it. On the 28th day, Colonel Park addressed the Unified Earth Defense Council. Maps and battle plans filled the screens around him. The Nava have conquered thousands of worlds because species either surrender immediately or fight conventionally and lose, he explained. They've never encountered an adversary that refused to play by their rules. He brought up images of the reverse-engineered Navar technology. We don't need to match them in strength. We need to survive long enough to strike back. Captain Kim stepped forward. When they return for our surrender, they'll lower their shields to accept our representatives. That's our window to deliver specially designed quantum disruptors to their command ship. The Council voted unanimously to fight. On the 30th day, the Navar ambassador descended once more, expecting Earth's surrender. Instead, humanity launched its first counterattack. The war for Earth's freedom had begun, and the Nava were about to learn why humans had become the apex predators of their world. The emergency summit in Seoul brought together leaders from every nation on Earth. The Grand Hall of the International Cooperation Center hummed with tense conversations in dozens of languages. Holographic displays showed the Navar vessels hovering over major cities worldwide, their strange geometric patterns occasionally pulsing with blue light. President Lee took her place at the central podium, her normally perfect posture showing the weight of the past few weeks. Dark circles rimmed her eyes, but her voice rang clear through the hall. The Navar demand our surrender. Their technology appears centuries beyond ours. They believe victory is inevitable. She paused, looking at the gathered faces of humanity's representatives. But they've made a critical error in their assessment of our species. She gestured to Dr. Song, who approached with a small metallic cube clutched carefully in his hands. His rumpled lab coat and disheveled hair spoke of sleepless nights, but excitement brightened his eyes. "What I hold here," he said, placing the device on the display platform where cameras projected it onto screens around the room, is a working prototype built from the technology recovered from the crashed Navar scout ship. The cube flickered to life, projecting a shield bubble that enveloped the podium. A delegate from the African Union fired a small laser pointer at the shield. The beams scattered harmlessly across the surface. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. "We don't need to match them in strength," Dr. Song explained. "We only need to survive long enough to strike back. Humanity has always been outmatched by predators with sharper claws and stronger jaws. Yet here we stand, because we learned to adapt and overcome." Military commanders presented a unified strategy. Earth's forces would appear to prepare surrender ceremonies while secretly positioning for coordinated strikes against the Navar command vessels. The plan was not without opposition. Some argued for genuine surrender, hoping to preserve lives and negotiate from within the Empire. Others proposed fleeing Earth to hidden colonies beyond the solar system. During a heated debate, an unexpected visitor arrived. Two UEDF soldiers escorted a small frog-like alien into the chamber. The creature wore a deactivated control collar around its neck. "This is Kir," introduced Captain Kim, a former scientist from the Amphibus system. "The Navarre conquered his world 80 years ago." Kir's bulbous eyes blinked nervously as he addressed the assembly, his translator converting croaking sounds into human speech. "Your defiance surprises the Navarre," he said. "They expect either immediate surrender or conventional military response. In 3,000 cycles of expansion, they have incorporated over 60 species into their empire. None have successfully resisted. And why should we listen to you?" challenged a skeptical delegate from Brazil. Kir's throat sac pulsed. "Because I have spent my life studying Navarre weaknesses while appearing to serve them. Their neural network connects all ships and soldiers, disrupt it and their coordination fails. Attack one node successfully, and you create vulnerability across their entire fleet." The final vote was unanimous. Humanity would not kneel. As the month ended, the Navarre returned for Earth's surrender. Their massive mothership descended through clouds above Seoul, its shadow darkening the city like an artificial eclipse. In orbit, Earth's remaining satellites had been quietly repositioned. On the ground, experimental shield generators were hidden beneath false surrender platforms. In bunkers worldwide, soldiers prepared special forces teams equipped with reverse-engineered Navarre weapons. The Navarre ambassador and 12 guards materialized in the Grand Plaza, where thousands of humans had gathered, apparently ready to pledge allegiance. The ambassador's 6 eyes scanned the crowd, its living armor shifting colors from deep blue to satisfied purple. "Your wisdom in accepting the inevitable is noted," the ambassador's voice boomed across the plaza. "The Navarre Empire welcomes Earth, has its newest protectorate." President Lee stepped forward, her ceremonial robes concealing the shield generator strapped to her waist. "We have a message for your emperor," she replied, her voice steady. The ambassador's head tilted. "Proceed." "Humanity does not kneel." At her words, hidden shield generators activated across the plaza. Simultaneously, Earth's repositioned satellites fired concentrated electromagnetic pulses at the mothership above. The ambassador's 6 eyes widened in surprise as its communication device failed. The Navarre guards raised their weapons, but special forces teams emerged from the crowd, firing disruptors that interfered with the aliens' neural links. In orbit, Earth's remaining space fleet, small but now equipped with adapted Navarre technology, launched from hidden moon bases. They targeted the temporarily vulnerable mothership with quantum disruptors designed by Dr. Song. The massive vessel's shields flickered and failed in sections. Small, agile Earth fighters slipped through the gaps, deploying boarding teams directly into the alien ship's command center. On the ground, the ambassador and its guards found themselves cut off from the neural network for the first time in their lives. Confusion turned to panic as they realized their supposedly inferior opponents had outmaneuvered them. Colonel Park led the ground assault, his tactical visor displaying real-time updates from both terrestrial and orbital battles. They expected a ceremony, he said to his squad as they surrounded the ambassador. "We're giving them a revolution instead." The battle raged for 6 hours. Earth suffered heavy losses. 3 major cities were partially destroyed by Navarre ships before they could be disabled. But by nightfall, the seemingly impossible had happened. The Navarre mothership was under human control, its commanders captured and its databases being downloaded by Earth scientists. In the secured command center of the UEDF headquarters, President Lee and Colonel Park reviewed the initial intelligence from the captured ship. "The good news," Park reported, "is that we've gained access to their navigation systems and weapons controls. The bad news is that we've also learned the true size of their empire." A holographic map showed thousands of stars spread across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Red dots indicated Navarre strongholds, blue ones slave worlds. "They'll retaliate," President Lee said quietly. "This was only one battle fleet." "Yes," Park agreed. "But now we have something no other species has ever had against them, their own technology and a fighting chance." Outside the window, fires still burned across parts of Seoul, but repair crews were already at work. Humans helping humans, rebuilding. Even as they prepared for the greater war to come, the Navarre had expected surrender. Instead, they had ignited humanity's most dangerous quality, unified purpose in the face of extinction. The real war had only begun. Earth burned. The Navarre retaliation came swift and merciless, their reinforcement fleets emerging from hyperspace just 3 days after the capture of their mothership. Plasma weapons turned skyscrapers to ash. Orbital bombardments created craters where cities once stood. The atmosphere filled with smoke and dust, blocking sunlight across entire continents. Commander Han stood at the entrance to the underground bunker complex beneath the ruins of Busan, watching as the last group of survivors made their way down the tunnel. A young mother clutched a child to her chest, the little boy's wide eyes reflecting the orange glow of the burning city behind them. Han helped them inside before sealing the massive blast doors. "That's the last group from Sector 4, reported Lieutenant Seo, checking names off a digital tablet. Total bunker population now at capacity, 12,839. Han nodded, feeling the weight of those lives pressing down on her shoulders. The bunker had been designed as a research facility, not a refugee center. But like many emergency shelters around the world, it now served as one of humanity's last protected spaces. 3 levels below, in what had once been a quantum physics laboratory, Engineer Choi hunched over a dissected piece of Navarre technology. His fingers, nimble despite their thickness, connected delicate wires to a human-made interface. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cool underground air. "Any progress?" Han asked, entering the lab after completing her rounds. Choi looked up, dark circles under his eyes betraying days without proper sleep. "Yes and no. I've confirmed my theory about their quantum communication network. It's their greatest strength and potentially their greatest weakness." He activated a holographic display, showing an intricate web of connections between points of light, a representation of the Navarre command structure. Their entire empire functions through instantaneous quantum entanglement. Every ship, every soldier, connected in a single vast network, it allows for perfect coordination across light years of space. "And the weakness?" Han prompted. Choi smiled for the first time in days. "The system requires synchronization nodes, physical locations where the quantum field is stabilized and amplified. Disrupt those nodes, and we blind them," Han finished, a spark of hope kindling in her chest. Elsewhere in the bunker, Colonel Park had established a war room where representatives from other resistance cells around the world connected via secure quantum channels, ironically using adapted Navarre technology. "The African Union reports successful raids on 3 Navarre ground bases," reported General Kwon, her holographic image flickering slightly. "The North American resistance has 2 captured scout ships operational. Europe has lost contact with the Paris and Berlin bunkers," added another grim-faced commander. "But the Alpine complex reports they've perfected the cloaking technology," Park nodded, updating the global situation map. "And the orbital resistance?" A space-suited figure appeared in the holographic display, Commander Wu from the hidden lunar base. "The Navarre have established a blockade around Earth, but they're focusing on major population centers. Our ship production facilities on the far side remain undetected. We'll have a fleet of 20 stealth vessels ready within 2 weeks." The briefing continued, each report a mix of losses and small victories. Humanity was outgunned but adapting rapidly. The resistance had no central command. It couldn't be decapitated with a single strike. Instead, independent cells communicated, when possible, sharing discoveries and coordinating where they could. After the meeting, Han sought out Dr. June in the medical bay. The doctor was examining a wounded soldier whose arm had been partially regenerated using modified Navarre medical technology. "The cellular integration is holding," Dr. June explained, scanning the arm where human flesh met the slightly bluish, artificial tissue. "Their medical technology is centuries ahead of ours, but they designed it for their own biology. We're having to adapt it molecule by molecule." "Will she fight again?" Han asked. The soldier, Private Yoon, answered herself. "Give me a week, Commander. I'll be ready." That determination was humanity's greatest asset. 3 months into the occupation, the Narvar still couldn't understand why Earth refused to submit like other conquered species. Their tactics relied on shock, overwhelming force, and the assumption that intelligent beings would choose survival through submission over defiance. They had never encountered a species with humanity's particular evolutionary history, creatures, who had survived through cooperation, adaptation, and sheer stubborn persistence. In orbit, a Narvar command vessel maintained position over what had once been Tokyo. Inside, Sub-Commander Vex Nar studied reports of another failed pacification effort. "How are they anticipating our movements?" he demanded of his subordinates. "Every patrol we send is ambushed. Every settlement we establish is sabotaged." "Unknown, Commander," responded the sensor officer. "Their resistance does not match any known pattern from previous conquests." What the Narvar couldn't comprehend was the human capacity for asymmetric warfare. While they controlled the skies and had superior firepower, humans had turned their own planet into a weapon against the invaders. Every mountain, every forest, every ruined city became a death trap for Narvar ground forces. Back in the Busan bunker, Engineer Choi finally completed his prototype, a quantum disruptor that could temporarily sever the Narvar neural network within a limited area. The first field test came during a raid on a Narvar supply depot near the ruins of Daegu. Commander Han led the strike team personally, planting the device near the depot's communication array. When activated, the effect was immediate and dramatic. The Narvar guards stumbled, disoriented and uncoordinated, as their neural implants went dark. For the first time, they experienced the terrifying sensation of being truly alone in their own minds. The raid secured critical supplies and, more importantly, proved Choi's concept worked. Within days, resistance cells worldwide were replicating the technology. Meanwhile, deep in Narvar territory, on worlds conquered generations ago, something unprecedented was happening. News of Earth's resistance spread through whispered conversations among slave species. The Narvar tried to suppress the information, but couldn't stop all transmission. On Grishnak, once the homeworld of a proud avian species, now reduced to maintenance, workers, an elder named Tralkar removed his control collar in secret, using a method learned from intercepted Earth communications. His people had worn the collars for 12 generations. None living remembered freedom. "The humans fight," he whispered to a small gathering in hidden underground chambers. "They refuse to kneel." Similar scenes played out across 100 worlds. Hope, long extinguished, flickered back to life. On Earth, Commander Han addressed her growing resistance force. New recruits arrived daily. Survivors from fallen cities, escaped prisoners from Narvar work camps, even a few defectors from the slave species who had escaped their masters to join the human cause. "The Narvar believe they've broken us," she told the gathered fighters, her voice echoing through the bunker's main hall. "That's their first mistake." She activated a holographic display showing Engineer Choi's latest creation, a larger quantum disruptor designed to affect Narvar ships in orbit. "We can't match them ship for ship, but we can blind them, and a blind enemy can be defeated by those they cannot see." The resistance prepared for its most daring operation yet, a coordinated global strike against Narvar command centers. Earth would not be conquered quietly. The fire of human defiance was spreading and would soon engulf the stars themselves. Operation Firestorm began in darkness. Tiny human ships, their hulls coated with light-absorbing material reverse-engineered from Narvar stealth technology, slipped through the orbital blockade around Earth. Each vessel carried just 4 crew members and a quantum disruptor, Engineer, Choi's masterpiece, refined through dozens of field tests against Narvar patrols. Colonel Kang stood on the bridge of the Firebrand, the largest of these shadow ships at barely 30 meters long. Through the viewscreen, he watched Earth grow smaller behind them, its once blue surface now marred by brown scars, where Narvar bombardments had scorched entire regions. "Transition to FTL in 30 seconds, announced the pilot, her fingers dancing, across controls that blended human and Narvar technology. "All systems nominal," Kang nodded, his expression betraying none of the anxiety churning in his stomach. 6 months of guerrilla warfare had prepared them for this moment, humanity's first. strike beyond their home system. Intelligence gathered from captured Navarre officers had revealed the locations of 3 critical communication hubs that synchronized the quantum network across the Empire. "Remember Earth," he told his strike team as the stars blurred and stretched around them. The ship shuddered slightly as it tore through space at speeds humanity had only dreamed of before the invasion. Across the void, 20 similar vessels jumped simultaneously toward different targets. If even one succeeded, the Navarre Empire would face a disruption unlike anything in its 3,000-year history of conquest. The firebrand emerged from FTL at the edge of the Navarre home system. Massive orbital structures surrounded a rust-colored planet, the birthplace of the species that had tried to enslave humanity. Defense platforms bristled with weapons that could vaporize ships many times larger than the firebrand. "Active camouflage engaged," reported the tactical officer. "We're registering as space debris on their sensors." They drifted slowly toward the largest structure, a vast orbital fortress that served as the primary hub for the western arm of the galaxy. Unlike the sleek, organic curves of Navarre warships, this installation was angular and imposing, designed to proclaim the Empire's power to any who approached. As they closed in, Kang studied the alien structure through enhanced optics. "There," he pointed to a section near the equatorial band, "the quantum synchronization chamber. Getting inside would be the true challenge." The fortress housed thousands of Navarre military personnel and enslaved workers from dozens of conquered species. Security would be layers deep, designed to prevent exactly the kind of strike they were attempting. "Approaching maintenance dock," the pilot announced quietly, as if the Navarre might hear through the vacuum of space. Their intelligence had revealed a critical vulnerability. Even the mighty Navarre relied on routine waste disposal. The firebrand matched velocity with a garbage scow piloted by stooped gray-skinned beings, members of a species conquered centuries ago and reduced to the Empire's sanitation workers. As the scow docked with the fortress, the firebrand attached to its underside like a remora on a shark. Cutting tools designed to penetrate Navarre hull material created a silent entry point through both vessels. "Atmosphere secure," reported the tactical officer. "Internal sensors jammed." Kang led his team through the breach. They wore adaptive camouflage suits that shifted colors to match their surroundings. Their weapons, hybrid designs combining Navarre energy technology with human ingenuity, were set to non-lethal stun for the slave species they would encounter. First, the waste processing chamber smelled of chemicals and despair. The gray-skinned workers didn't even look up as the human team slipped past them. Generations of conditioning had taught them to keep their eyes down and their minds on their tasks. Moving through the station required patience and precise timing. Navarre patrols moved with mechanical predictability, their schedules governed by the same efficiency that had built their empire. Between these patrols, Kang's team advanced meter by careful meter toward the heart of the fortress. "Command, this is Firestorm Actual," Kang whispered into his comm unit, using a frequency that piggybacked on the Navarre's own communications. "We are approaching primary target. Status of other teams." Commander Han's voice came through with only slight distortion. "Team 2 has reached their target at the Mizar relay station. Team 3 is engaging hostiles at the Procyon hub. Proceed as planned." They reached a massive door marked with Navarre script. According to their intelligence, beyond it lay the quantum synchronization chamber, the nerve center that maintained faster-than-light communications across a third of the galaxy. "Bypass sequence initiated," said the team's tech specialist, attaching a device to the security panel. Engineer Choi had programmed it with access codes extracted from captured Navarre officers. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a cathedral-like space. Blue-green energy pulsed between crystalline structures that reached from floor to ceiling. At workstations arranged in concentric circles, Navarre technicians monitored the quantum network, unaware that their perfect system was about to experience its first true disruption. "Remember Earth," Kang whispered as his team moved into position. The ensuing firefight was brief but intense. Navarre security forces responded with predictable tactics, effective against conventional attacks but unprepared for human improvisation. While half the team engaged the defenders directly, Kang and the tech specialist fought their way to the central control terminal. "Quantum disruptor activated," reported the specialist as she connected Choi's device to the Navar system. "Transmission in 3, 2, 1. Across 3 star systems, human strike teams completed identical actions within minutes of each other. The coordinated attack sent a cascading failure through the Navar communication network, a virus of silence spreading at quantum speeds. On the Navar homeworld, the Emperor experienced something unprecedented in Imperial history. Confusion. Reports stopped arriving. Orders went unacknowledged. For the first time, the perfect coordination that had built and maintained the Empire fractured. Back on Earth, Captain Yoon stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, a hybrid vessel built in the hidden shipyards of the lunar far side. Around her, a fleet of similar ships prepared to launch. "All vessels report ready," her first officer announced. "Quantum disruption confirmed across all targeted Nava networks." "They told us to kneel," Yoon broadcast across all frequencies as her battleship broke lunar orbit. "We choose to stand." The counterattack had begun. And in distant corners of the galaxy, on worlds long conquered and species long subjugated, something even more dangerous to the Nava was spreading: hope. As news of humanity's resistance reached them through the fragmented remains of the quantum network, slave species who had known nothing but servitude for generations began to whisper of freedom. The empire that had conquered 1,000 worlds now faced a war on 1,000 fronts. And at the head of this unexpected rebellion flew ships bearing the symbol of Earth, a planet the Navar had expected to add easily to their collection, never imagining it would instead become the spark that would burn their empire to ash. The Nava capital world glowed like an ember against the blackness of space. Once a symbol of imperial might, now it was surrounded by the combined fleet of the rebellion. Ships from Earth fought alongside vessels piloted by 24 formerly enslaved species. Planetary defense shields flickered under constant bombardment, weakening hour by hour. Admiral Bay stood on the command deck of the Liberation, Earth's flagship. Once a brilliant scientist, she had transformed into a military leader through the crucible of war. Her dark uniform bore the scars and patches of 3 years of constant battle. "Shield coverage down to 40%, reported her tactical officer. "Their orbital platforms are falling." Beside her stood representatives of the Allied Species Council, beings from worlds that had suffered under Navar rule for generations. Tralka, the avian elder whose people had been the first to join humanity's rebellion, spread his iridescent wings slightly in anticipation. "After 12 generations of wearing their collars," he said in his melodic voice, "my grandchildren will know freedom." Through the viewport, they watched as another Nava defense satellite exploded in a brilliant flash. The path to the surface was opening. "All ships, prepare for final approach," Bay ordered. "Ground forces stand ready for deployment." The Liberation led the assault, its hull absorbing energy blasts from the remaining Navar defenses. The ship shuddered but held together, a testament to the hybrid technology that combined human ingenuity with advanced alien engineering. As they broke through the cloud layer, the Imperial Palace came into view, a massive structure of gleaming metal and crystalline spires that dominated the horizon. Here was the seat of power that had directed the subjugation of countless worlds. Landing craft streaked toward the surface, carrying mixed teams of human and allied species fighters. They touched down in the vast plaza before the palace, immediately engaging the Imperial Guard, the elite of Navar military might, clad in living armor that adapted to attacks in real time. Commander Han led the ground assault, her battle-worn face set with determination beneath her helmet. 3 years of resistance had hardened her, but unlike the Navar, she had not lost her capacity for compassion. "Remember, non-lethal tactics for any enslaved workers we encounter," she reminded her forces through the tactical network. "They're victims, not enemies." The battle for the palace was unlike anything in human military history. Corridors shifted and sealed themselves as the Nava defenses activated. Gravity wells appeared unexpectedly, crushing unwary fighters. But for every Nava adaptation, the Allied forces had a counter-strategy. Species that had once built the Empire's wonders now used that knowledge to dismantle its defenses. Admiral Bay led a small strike team through a service tunnel revealed by former Imperial architects. They bypassed the main battle, heading directly for the throne room at the palace core. With them went Engineer Choi, carrying his most advanced creation yet, a device that could permanently disable the neural control network that kept billions enslaved across the galaxy. They encountered the Emperor's personal guard outside massive doors inscribed with the history of Navarre conquests. The ensuing fight was brief but brutal. Bay took a glancing blow from an energy weapon, leaving her left arm hanging useless at her side, but her team prevailed. The throne room beyond stretched impossibly high, its ceiling a dome of transparent material that revealed the battle raging in orbit. The Emperor himself waited on a raised platform, surrounded by a final protective shield. Unlike the warriors of his species, he was taller, his 6 eyes larger, his living armor pulsing with power drawn directly from the palace generators. "How fight well for primitives," the Emperor's voice resonated through the chamber. "No species has ever reached this room before." Bay stepped forward, ignoring the pain in her arm. Behind her, Choi worked quickly to interface his device with the palace systems. "We're not here to fight," she replied. "We're here to end this." The Emperor's armor shifted colors, displaying patterns that indicated amusement in Navarre culture. "End the empire that has stood for 30 centuries. You are either brave or delusional." "Perhaps we're simply free," Bay countered. "Something. You've forgotten how to be." As they spoke, Allied forces secured key positions throughout the palace. The Emperor's shield remained intact, but his empire was crumbling around him. "You could have lived in peace as our subjects," the Emperor hissed, his composure finally breaking. "Each species has its place in the natural order. Ours is to rule." "Humans don't make good subjects," Bay replied. "We never learned to kneel." At that moment, Choi completed his work. Throughout the palace, throughout the capital, throughout the entire empire, the neural control network that had maintained Navarre dominance for millennia suddenly went silent. Billions of control collars deactivated simultaneously across thousands of worlds. For the first time in generations, enslaved species experienced true freedom of thought and action. The Emperor felt the change immediately. The constant background hum of imperial control, the mental connection to his vast empire, vanished. For the first time in his long life, he was truly alone in his mind. "What have you done?" he whispered, genuine fear in his voice. "We've given everyone their minds back," Bay answered simply. "The rest is up to them." The shield around the Emperor flickered and died, as palace power systems, no longer maintained by enslaved technicians, began to fail. Imperial guards, suddenly free of neural compulsion, lowered their weapons in confusion. The aftermath was not simple. Some worlds descended temporarily into chaos as power structures collapsed. Others transitioned peacefully as local populations reclaimed their sovereignty. Earth led the formation of a new interstellar alliance. Not an empire, but a federation of equals where each species contributed according to their abilities and cultural strengths. Admiral Bay stood on the observation deck of the Liberation 1 year later, watching as ships from 42 formerly enslaved species gathered for the first Galactic Congress. The Navarre were there too, no longer as conquerors but as equals, their society transforming without the crutch of enslaved labor and absolute control. "Did you ever think we'd see this day?" asked Commander Han, joining her at the viewport. Bay smiled slightly. "Honestly, no. But that's the thing about humans. We fight hardest when victory seems impossible." Below them, the former imperial capital had been transformed into a neutral meeting ground. The palace now housed representatives from every allied world, its vast halls echoing with dozens of languages and hundreds of different forms of communication. The species that had demanded humanity's submission had learned a painful lesson. Never underestimate those who evolved as the apex predators of their world. The stars, once dominated by tyranny, now shined on free worlds. The end.